Hi, this is Shannon from www.prepschool.com, and today we're going to talk about the pros and cons of all the moderate Disney World resorts so you can decide which will work best for your trip. Let's go. So today I want to talk about the moderate resorts at Disney World. Moderate resorts are what the name implies. They are moderately priced. They have some amenities, but not as many as the deluxe resorts do. The resorts on this include Caribbean Beach Resort, Port Orleans Riverside, Port Orleans French Quarter, and Coronado Springs Resort. Disney also considers Fort Wilderness Cabins to be in the moderate category, but Fort Wilderness is really its own separate topic and experience, so we'll eliminate the cabins from this list and we will talk about Fort Wilderness on another day. All of the moderate resorts that we are going to talk about have rooms that are accessible to the outside versus interior hallways. There is one exception to this at the Grand Destino Tower at Coronado Springs, but we'll get to that in just a minute. These resorts are really gorgeous and they have some of the most amazing landscaping at Disney World, but they're also less explicitly Disney than many of the other resorts. So if you are a family with little kids who wants fun theming, you might be better off staying at a value resort instead of one of the moderate resorts for theming reasons. Unlike the value resorts, moderate resorts have pools with slides and they have more dining options, so there are perks to staying there as well. Most of these also have lots of internal bus stops, which makes the bus transportation to and from the parks take longer than if you were staying at a resort that had one stop. The ideal person to stay at a moderate resort is somebody who wants a gorgeous resort at a reasonable price, and if you have a car, that would be even better due to the sprawling size and number of internal bus stops that most of them have. Now, we used to rank the moderate resorts from favorite to least favorite, but with so many recent changes and upgrades, it is way too close to call. So let's discuss the pros and cons of each to help you decide which will be best for you. First up is Caribbean Beach Resort, which seems only fitting because it used to rank dead last, not only of the moderate resorts, but of all the Disney World resorts at Disney World for us. But through a series of changes and upgrades, that is no longer the case. The resort is obviously Caribbean themed, hence the name, and it has some newer dining options, which used to be a con of staying here, but now it certainly isn't. And also there is a new resort that has been built adjacent to it called Riverside Resort, which benefits the people who stay at Caribbean Beach Resort, and we'll get to that in just a minute. So let's talk about the pros and cons of staying here. The first pro of Caribbean Beach Resort is that you have two Skyliner stations. On one end is the hub of the entire Skyliner system, which gives you direct access to Hollywood Studios and Epcot as well as other resorts. On the other end is the Riviera Resort Station, which you can use if you stay at Caribbean Beach, and it just gives you another option. So you've got these two Skyliner stations right at Caribbean Beach Resort. Also, you do have new dining options on site. As I mentioned, the food here used to be terrible, but now the food court, the quick service, the table service, all of that is much better than it used to be. So it's certainly not a con of staying here. This resort also has pirate themed rooms. They often will do these themed rooms to entice people to stay at an end of the resort that would otherwise be undesirable. However, the pirate themed rooms are now within a quick walk to the main Skyliner hub. So even the location isn't so bad, and you have the pirate theming if that is your thing. So it's just fun that this is an option at Caribbean Beach. And lastly, I mentioned that Riviera Resort is located here, and one of the hugest perks of that is it gives you access to more dining options, including a character meal at Topolino. So the idea that you can stay in a moderate resort and be able to walk to a character meal feels like such a huge perk to me. You can also use their quick service. You could do mobile ordering on your phone and walk over there and get it. However, don't try to use their pool. Pool hopping is not allowed. A con of staying at Caribbean Beach Resort, the biggest con, is the number of internal bus stops. If you are planning to use bus transportation to get to and from the parks or Disney Springs, you will have to sit through lots and lots and lots of stops on your way and coming back. I believe it has more stops than any Disney World resort, and so that can make it take a long time. So while the Skyliner is extremely convenient and quick, the bus stops may not be. You may want a car if you're staying at Caribbean Beach Resort. Before we wrap up Caribbean Beach Resort, I do want to give you a little tip if you plan to stay here. We used to always suggest that people book the preferred room category at moderate resorts because it would put you closer to all of the things that you might want. So food, the main pool, transportation, but that has changed a lot, and it really depends what you want to be close to. If you book a standard room at Caribbean Beach, it actually could put you close to the Skyliner. So I would just encourage you to look into that and book the category that makes the most sense for you. Next up is Port Orleans French Quarter. As you may have guessed by the name, it is themed after the French Quarter in New Orleans, and it is a companion resort to Port Orleans Riverside, which we will talk about in a minute. French Quarter has lots of pros, including being very small and compact. So if you don't like the sprawling nature of the other resorts, you may like French Quarter. Because of that, it only has one bus stop, so you don't have all those internal stops to worry about. It does also have a boat that will take you to Disney Springs, which makes for a lovely evening as you head out to dinner and want to come back via boat. And for the things that it lacks, it does have close proximity to Port Orleans Riverside. So if there's an amenity that you don't have at French Quarter, you can always walk over there easily to take advantage of, for instance, more dining options. One thing that French Quarter has that other resorts don't is amazing beignets. They used to serve them in their food court, and then they opened a whole separate dining space just for beignets, and we even make stops over there just to eat those sometimes. On the con side, it does have fewer amenities, including no table service restaurant, and there are no rooms that accommodate more than 4 people at Port Orleans French Quarter. Up next on the list is Port Orleans Riverside, the big sister to French Quarter. This was number 1 on our list in the moderate resort category for a long time, but that is not necessarily the case anymore because there is a lot of competition. This resort is gorgeous, as all moderate resorts are, and it has basically 2 sections within it. One is the more rustic Alligator Bayou section, and the other is the Magnolia Bend Mansions. So you have those 2 if you choose to stay here, but there are lots of pros and cons, so let's get into some of those. On the pro side, we have a royal room option at this resort, and I would even say they are some of the best themed rooms we have ever stayed in at Disney World. They are princess themed, and it is all throughout the room, from the tables to the bedding to the artwork. And so if you have a princess lover, this is a fantastic option at this resort. It also does have the boat to Disney Springs, just like French Quarter does, which is a nice perk if you are staying here. It also has close proximity to French Quarter. So to me, it feels like if you stay at either resort, you kind of get 2 within 1. And this especially comes in handy if you want to make a beignet run over to French Quarter. This resort is also one of the few that allows dogs. So if you are traveling with a dog, you can bring it here. There are some rules and restrictions in place, so you'll want to check into those, but just know that it is an option. The biggest con to Port Orleans Riverside, like some of the other moderate resorts, is that it is sprawling. So there are a lot of internal bus stops, and you just need to know that before you choose to stay there. And last up, but definitely not least for us, is Coronado Springs Resort. Not only is this resort beautiful with its combined blend of Spanish, Mexican, and Southwest American cultures, but they have a new tower called the Gran Destino Tower, which is really like having 2 resorts all within one, which makes it a favorite of ours personally. However, there are pros and cons, so let's get into it. On the pro side, we have the best moderate pool in all of Disney World, with this incredible slide that is a 50-foot replica of a Mayan pyramid. So even before the new tower was added, this resort always had a leg up in terms of having the best pool of all the moderate resorts. So if that's important to you, you will appreciate it. The next pro is that there are lots of great food options. There is 3 bridges, and there's a sports bar. There's a great food court. Lots of good food here to choose from. So if the reduced hours of the parks right now have you back at your resort, you will likely find plenty of options to choose from. The biggest pro is the addition of the Gran Destino Tower, which happens to be our favorite. We would probably choose it over a lot of the deluxes because it feels more like a deluxe than a moderate resort, all the way down to the option to book club level rooms. And so having a club level room or a room in the tower at a moderate price is just fantastic to us. So you might be wondering, well, then after all this praise, what is the con to Coronado Springs Resort? And I would say that the biggest con is that it can feel a lot more corporate because it is a convention hotel. There is a convention center located here, and they definitely cater to business travelers. But because of that, they also have very deluxe-like amenities that anyone can enjoy. So if that appeals to you, you may enjoy Coronado Springs Resort. All right, that wraps up the discussion of the moderate resorts. Which one are you going to pick? Which one's the best fit for you? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching.